If you're a small content creator or you're just wondering if you want to start a YouTube channel, this video might have something for you. Now, I can't give advice to big content creators because I'm not a big content creator, whatever that means. I think it's always interesting when people dismiss your advice because they figure, well, you're nobody on social media, so why should I care about you? Well, mainly because I'm watching you. I mean, the reason why you have 1 million subscribers is because I'm one of them. And if I see something that I think might affect you, I'm going to say it. However, this is not that video. Today's video is for people who have very small YouTube channels or are thinking about starting a YouTube channel and want to commiserate with other people who have very small presence on social media. So I was watching this content creator. Last night there was a video that came recommended by YouTube. And it's from a content creator that I've watched before. And I believe I'm subscribed to them. And ironically, indirectly, I am kind of talking about them. But they were interviewing this other person whose channel I've never watched. So I don't know what kind of content they do. But this person has grown their channel exponentially in a very short period of time. And one of the things, and I am going to put the name of that person here, the person that they were interviewing. I'm also going to give you the link to that video. I haven't finished watching that video, so I don't know what else it was said. But the one thing that I remember is that they mentioned how they didn't necessarily follow the rules of engagement, so to speak, in terms of YouTube or any social media platform for that matter. And they were talking about something that I'm very familiar with. Now, let me be very clear with you. So in case you're new here, I used to have a fairly reliable channel. I would post almost every day. Then some things happened and I, in very quick succession, got bullied into madness, basically. Lost my dog, lost my mother, lost my father-in-law in less than 3 years. That was 2020, 2021, 2022. And then last year, I started coming back because I decided I wanted to give it one more chance. Because I believe that everybody, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of ethnicity or race, has something to say in a space on social media. So I decided to come back. And then when the year started, I decided to challenge myself and make a video every day about something that's going on social media. On this channel, I have other channels. And so I always pay attention to content creators that do content in regards to making yourself more visible on social media. And the one thing that I have noticed, and it's happened more than once, so clearly this is an occasional thing, is the fact that I will watch 3 content creators and they're all contradicting themselves. And if you look at the date on the videos, they're within the same week. And that got me thinking, because here's the thing. I had an idea for what I wanted for this channel. And after a while, I said, you know what? I'm going to do whatever I want to do because I'm a very small channel. Nobody's paying attention to me, so I can do whatever I want. I'm not saying that I don't pay attention to what my people tell me, because if you guys give me a suggestion, I'm going to go with it. So far, you haven't. So either I'm doing the right thing, or you don't want to tell me, or you don't think you can tell me. I'm telling you to tell me, okay? If you want a particular topic to be addressed, sound it off on the comment section below. Keep in mind that I'm not going to do anything that has to do with James Charles or Colleen Ballinger, because those, they have their own section of creators that are doing a really good job. There are topics that I'm not going to touch just because they don't go in line with what a Generation X 57-year-old woman is interested in. And the one change that I'm making to what content I create is that if it's not absolutely interesting to me, I'm not going to touch it. That's very different from before. Before, I used to do content on anything and anyone. I didn't care. Having said that, when you're creating content on social media, you should have an idea of what's happening in that world, which is why I watch that kind of content creator that tells you what are the new rules, what are the best techniques and whatnot. But one thing that always stressed me out to the nth degree was this idea that I had to niche down. No, you have to have your target audience and you have to make content for that target audience, and if you're going to talk about, I don't know, cars, make all your videos about cars. If you're going to talk about makeup, make all your videos about makeup. Well, that is a pigeonhole. If you don't think so, you're insane. Because what happens is people grow out of the interest. It's one of those things. I follow a bunch of design channels, decorating, organizing, that kind of thing. And I will watch a ton of content on that for 3 or 6 months. And then I will go and watch something else for 3 to 6 months. Sometimes I never come back. I have a list of like 900 content creators that I follow. I can tell you without missing, I have not watched probably 870 of the 900 channels in the last 1 to 2 years. It doesn't do them any good if I'm subscribed to their channel if I'm not watching their content. Now, mind you, now that I'm creating content every day, I have less time to watch content, so that's a thing. But the reality is that you grow in and out of love with certain content. It has nothing to do with the content creator. However, if the content creator creates content on different things, you might come back. Tell me why TV channels, and think about this for a second. If you're my age, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When television started, and I know I was not alive when that happened, but when television started, the main channels in the United States, ABC, NBC, CBS, they had a little bit of everything. Then we started seeing what is now TLC, which, by the way, was called the Learning Channel because everything they had on that channel was things for you to learn. It was not reality TV. You had Bravo and AMC, which were like the fancy TV stuff. AMC was all about American movie classics. Yes, that's what that stands for. And Bravo was about, I don't even know how to explain it, but Bravo was not what it is right now. And I realized 2 things. Number one, once a particular channel goes into reality TV, it's very hard for them to move out of it because people are fascinated by other people. It is what it is. Why do you think YouTube channels get so much audience? It's because everybody wants to see how everybody else is doing or living or thriving or not thriving. That's just a reality of life. But the reality on TV was that at one point, there was an entire group of channels that were specific, meaning they had a specific niche. The Learning Channel was one of them. American Movie Classics was another one. MTV was music television. There were other channels, but right now, the National Geographic Channel, which I think is still live, I'm not entirely sure. There were an entire group of channels that were niched down. Spike was for men, Lifetime was for women, okay? Then they started realizing that if you niche too far down, you start losing your audience because people get tired of it. I mean, there's only so many freaking movies, romantic movies you can watch, or movies created for women that you can watch before you start getting sick of seeing the same topic over and over again. Which, I'm not going to get into it, but that's their own fault. There are literally millions of topics that you can make content on to attract women only. The fact that you keep doing the same movie over and over again and just change the main characters is a you problem. It's not a me problem. But I digress. Anyway, the bottom line is this. There are a ton of channels that started out with this niche idea, and eventually they realized that that was not a good idea, and little by little they transform themselves into just another channel for a bunch of stuff. It is what it is. If you look at channels that like TLC and Bravo who concentrate on a lot of reality TV, not even the reality TV is all the same. You might have a housewife. Clearly, Bravo has a hold on housewives. They have 450,000 shows of housewives. It is what it is. But if you actually pay attention, they're the ones who started Top Chef. They're the ones who started Project Runway. There's the great, not on Bravo, but there is Survivor. There are all kinds of either Bachelor contest shows. There's a lot of other things that are reality TV, like the dude that does the flipping of the houses. Flip out? I can't remember his name. Lewis, I believe is his last name. But anyway, the bottom line is that everybody has figured out that niching down is not necessarily the best thing. Think about, I'm going to give you 2 examples out of the top of my head. Think about Manny MUA and Laura Lee. They're makeup channels, and they have devolved into this podcast that is essentially a gossip channel. Think about, I want to say her name is, I forgot her name, but I watch her channel. I'm going to link it below just so you know who I'm talking about. She used, I think it's Stephanie Sue, that did mukbang channels, okay? And she is now doing true crime, true stories on a podcast. And by the way, she does an excellent job. I'm not taking that away from her. I don't know about Manny MUA and Laura Lee because I don't watch them. But I don't care for tea anymore. It's like, I'm over it. But the one thing I can tell you is that they realized that if they stayed on makeup only, they were not going to keep getting the audience because eventually people get tired. There's only so many reviews of makeup you can do. Ironically, I personally miss the days when people were teaching people how to put makeup on their face or showing you how to do a cat eye or whatever. And the reason is simple. From 2017 until today, I've watched, I don't even know how many channels of beauty content. I have yet to figure out how to put fake eyelashes on. There have been many channels that have done a video on how to put them on. I can't do it. So I was in the hopes that someday I'll find somebody that'll explain it in a way that'll make sense in my brain and I can do it. There are many channels that talk about hooded eyes and whatnot. I only know 2 channels that actually concentrate, and I'm not talking about people who put makeup on. I'm talking about actual makeup artists who actually teach people how to put makeup on for mature skin. The only one that comes to mind right off the top of my head is Matias for Makeup. We have an entire group of people that are getting older by the minute. Millennials are in their 30s and 40s, people. And you don't see the need for people to put makeup on the faces of people that are aging. The Generation Z is complaining, and it's not entirely false, that they're aging more than their millennial counterparts. They're not wrong. One of the biggest content creators in the Sellennial generation was just talking about the fact that he was 26. Mind you, personally, I thought he was in his 40s. I thought he was older than my daughter. Turns out, my daughter is about 8 years older than him. If you look at them side by side, my daughter looks like a 19-year-old and he looks like a 40-year-old. So maybe there's something to that theory that Sellennials... I actually didn't know he was a Sellennial. I just thought he was really funny. But anyway, bottom line it for you, and I realize I use the bottom line a lot. We concentrate on one thing, and then we don't make any other content. And then we're surprised when people just age out, in the case of younger people, or just lose interest. There's only so much you can do. I don't care how creative you are. there's only so much you can do without inserting or injecting a little bit of something else on your channel. One of the reasons why lifestyle channels have so much potential, and I'm not saying they're good or bad, I'm saying they have potential, is because when it comes to lifestyle, there's so many avenues you can take. I have a channel that is dedicated for the lifestyle of Generation X, okay? And I don't necessarily want to bring the room down, but one of the topics that has become kind of like an anchor to that channel in many ways is the fact that I live with IBS. The other concept is the fact that my mother passed away from Alzheimer's. And those are things that when you get to a certain age, you have to start thinking about. Because what have you done with your life except for work for somebody else, make them money, and you get sick? I'm perfect proof of that. And so I'm going to give you the specifics of my story I'm going to make it short because I don't want to be talking for another, God only knows how long I'm going to be talking for. I've already been talking for almost 20 minutes. But I want to give you some highlights of my time on social media so that you understand the challenges, because you have to keep in mind, if you're doing this for money, maybe this is not the option for you yet. That doesn't mean you shouldn't start, by the way. When I started this channel, it was 2017. I did not have a job. My job was to take care of my parents, my mother specifically. And so I got a little stipend from her estate. She never had an official estate, but I would just pay myself a salary for taking care of her, because in my mother's case, because of her Alzheimer's, I was home 24/7. I couldn't leave the house for pretty much anything. I can't tell you how many hours of sleep I got, because on an average night, she would wake me up 6 and 7 times because she had to go to the bathroom. She really didn't, but in her brain she had to. Alzheimer's is a horrible disease, but it's also fascinating because it fills your head with all kinds of things that you sit there and you go, but you do what you do. On an average night, I got 2 hours of sleep. And then, of course, when there were people awake in the house, if there was anybody awake in the house, most of the time I was sleeping because I was not getting enough sleep. By the time we were able to place her in a facility that could take care of her, it was because my doctor said either you put her in a facility or I put you in a hospital. Because I was mentally, physically, everything you can imagine, I was exhausted. For some reason, that's when I started doing content. I did it because I was bored and I wanted to challenge myself to do something different. I am very much a perfectionist, and I wanted to break out of that mold. And I figured creating content on YouTube was the perfect thing because I don't know how to use the camera. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do anything. And it'll be something fun for me to do. And I was having fun 2017 and 2018. Then I think it was mid-2018, somebody threatened to kill me on social media. And the reason why I'm laughing is because at the time, I saw the comment, which you're seeing right now, and it didn't register that he was talking about me until somebody showed me the rest of the conversations that were being had that night, because this person lived in a different country in the other side of the planet, which means that when it was nighttime here, it was daytime for him. And I guess he had been trash talking me all day, and I didn't know anything about it. So that was my first inkling, but I didn't really pay attention. This is lesson number 1 that I want to tell you about having a presence on social media. Now, I have a video that is all about the lessons I've learned, but this is lesson number 1 and one of the most important lessons that I learned, which I want to share with you here. In 2019, I got me a stalker. And this person was so obsessed with checking everything that I ever said or did. And then she would create little memes with every picture I posted on all my social media. And all was well and good until she decided to go into my Facebook, which if you go to my Facebook is closed to anybody that's not my friend. And there was a feature on Facebook that you had access to a couple of images from my account, even though my account was private. And that person took those, and one of those people took the pictures from that. Because it turns out this person was several people in one account. There were people that had 15 and 20 accounts talking trash about me, making my life a living hell. And I didn't know that it was one person with several sock accounts. So I thought 100 people were against me. And when you are a channel of 1,000, to have 100 people hating on you feels like 1,000,000. It put me in a very bad place. And if you remember, 2020 was the year of the plague. If you're already in a dark place when the year starts, it's going to do a number on you. That's when I started like getting away from this. It got so bad that there were people that were in the area where I walked in the mornings. I used to drive 15 minutes to come to this park to walk. And there were 3 people that were always showing up at the weirdest times and whatnot. And based on what they were doing and what was happening, they were actually, I had to call the cops on them a couple of occasions. There was just a lot going on. And so the first lesson that you need to learn if you decide to create an account on social media, and it really doesn't matter if you're cooking, if you're cleaning, if you are doing the most sweet, positive content you can find, you are always going to have people who hate you just because you actually have a channel on social media. It is what it is. I could sit here all day and sing the praises of every content creator on the planet, and there's always going to be one person that's going to say, oh, you're just sucking on them to see if you can get some of their audience. You're trying to suck their audience away from them. No. I can't tell you how many times I would make a video about something that actually happened on social media, and somebody would tell me, oh, you put their name on the title just so people will come and see what you're saying. Yeah, that is the point, but it's also that they see that the person did something wrong. But that didn't register. No matter what kind of content you do, you are going to have haters. If you mentally prepare for that fact before you even start, chances are it's not going to affect you like it affected me. I blew up my channel because it got to the point where I was second guessing every single thing I did because I didn't want to offend anybody. And leads me to lesson number 2, that's of the most important lessons I've learned. It doesn't matter what you say, you're always going to offend somebody. So you might as well do and say whatever you feel in your heart is the truth. I'm going to give you the perfect example of something that is happening right now so that you get what I'm saying. There is a war going on between Israelites and Palestinians, right? It really doesn't matter whose side you're on. People on the other side are going to say that you're a horrible human being. Now, mind you, I didn't say Hamas versus Zionists, which is the real problem. I said Israelites versus Palestinians, or the Jewish community versus Palestinians. Because to me, the innocent people there are the people that are getting killed. All of them. Regardless of which side they're on. It is what it is. But if you... Perfect example. The other day I was making a video and sipping tea from my Starbucks cup. And somebody actually came and told me, oh, they support Israel. You are against Palestinians, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if you actually paid attention to the channel, you would know the answer to that question. But I'm not going to waste my time with you. By the way, Starbucks has not taken a stand on that issue. Because that's the other thing that's very interesting. If you decide that you're not going to pick a side, you're also getting bashed. Ask Rick Riordan. It doesn't really matter what you do with your life or who you support. Somebody's going to hate on you. You're going to have to decide before you get in this melee if you can deal with the hate. Personally, I didn't deal with it well for several years, and I have to think that part of is that we had so much tragedy in my life. In the first year of the Panini, we lost over 40 family members and friends. Only two of them were because of the disease. But because of the Panini, we couldn't go to funerals, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't visit people before they pass. The I'm gonna give you just so you have an idea. My dog was in the hospital, in the vet hospital, when they called me and told me, you need to come here because we're gonna have to put him down. Well, first they told me I had to make the decision. Then they told me, then you need to get over here. I'm not going to tell you where I was, but I can tell you that I was on the opposite end of, I live on one side of Orlando. I was on the opposite end of Orlando. If you know the Orlando area, and you know it can take you up to an hour to get from one side to the other. It was an hour and 10 minutes, and I drove it in 40 minutes. Because I was ready. If a cop stopped me, I was going to tell him, they're putting my dog down. I got to go. If you want to give me a ticket, you go to a vet hospital with me. This is the name of the vet hospital. This is where I'm going. Because I was not planning on stopping for a cop. That's how ready I was for a ticket. I knew exactly what I was going to say. I had to sit in the parking lot of the vet hospital because of the restrictions with the Panini. My husband, my daughter, and I could not go inside the facility to have him put to sleep inside the facility. So we opened the trunk to the car, which I no longer have that car because in reality, every time I looked at that car, I thought about him. We had to open the trunk of the car, and we had a hatchback type of situation, so the trunk was fairly big. We put blankets and all, and we sat there talking to him, and they told us to take our time, and we did. And we all kissed him goodbye, and we watched him go to sleep. Because that's what it looks like when they put him down. That was 2020. 2021, I get a phone call from the hospital because my mother was in a facility that was really good, but because of the Panini, we could only see her. In a period of a year and a half, we could only see her 6 or 8 times. And it was beginning to happen in the summer of 2021. And I get a phone call that actually both of them, the home and the hospital, were calling me because she was not doing well. I needed to get over there yesterday because I was the power of attorney. And it didn't register what was happening. Now that I think about it, it should have, because all I saw, she had her eyes open and all I saw was black. I didn't see the white of her eyes or anything. All I saw was black and her eyes were watery. And my mother was like me. She would get her the tears flowing for pretty much anything sentimental. She was very sentimental. But my mother was also living with Alzheimer's, and she was at the point where she didn't recognize anybody. And I couldn't tell what was happening. It turns out that she was dying and we didn't know. My sister walked through the door. By the way, we are the only two left. My sister walked through the door, kissed her on the forehead. My mother was dead within 5 minutes. And we were there. We were there talking, much like we were talking 5 years earlier when my dad passed away in my apartment. And it was one of those situations where you feel like, oh, they know that we're hanging out, talking, and having a good time. We were not having a good time, but we were just talking like sisters do. We're not arguing or anything like that. And that she knew her babies were going to be okay, and she left. Fast forward another year, and my father-in-law gets sick. We find a way of sending my husband, because we couldn't go because we didn't have the funds for it. And my husband calls me, my father-in-law's gone. My dog died in October, my mother died in July, my father-in-law died in August. one after the other in less than 24 months. Personally, I think that had a lot to do with how much I didn't care about the channel, because when you've lost 40 people and your dog in 1 year, then you lose your mother, then you lose your father-in-law, you really don't care about much of anything. It is what it is. And you have to understand, I live with a condition that already gives me depression. Because if you don't know what IBS is, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but the reality is that it's a very depressing situation. And so I can't entirely blame the people that were trying to destroy me, because in a sense, I was already pretty destroyed. So all they did was kind of like give me the final push. And when I say they were trying to destroy me, they actually started emailing people a mugshot of me as a child abuser. So yeah, they were actually trying to destroy me. And I have it on recording. The person that gave the idea to whoever did it actually said, if you want to destroy somebody, create a fake screenshot of them, a mugshot, and blah, blah, blah. And that's exactly what they did. So I know where the idea came from. And no, I have not deleted that file. But the reason why I'm telling you all this is because you're going to have things in your life that are already going to make life hard. If you don't think you can deal with people being abusive towards you and doxing you and treating you like crap, this is not the job for you. And yes, I did call it a job. I don't care if you make $1 or $1 million. If you have to put work in, this is a job. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the video from yesterday. So the thing about it is that when you come to social media, you have to keep in mind that you are going to get a lot of abuse, no matter whose side you're on. The second thing that you have to understand is that you might make $1, you might make 10, you might not make anything. I was at one point, there were months where I was making $500, which was great because that's all I needed. But I'm going to give you an example of the finances right now so you understand how important this is to me now. My family, there's 3 members in my family. 2 of them are working full time, and then it's me. I have a job with a company called Remote Task. I'm an independent contractor, and the only way I can describe it to you is I train AI. That's all I can tell you. I write stuff. I write scripts for AI. Okay? So the beauty of this job is that because of my IBS, if I start working, like when I finish this video, I'm going to start working. Let's say I'm an hour and a half, 2 hours in, and I get the urge to go to the bathroom. And I might be in the bathroom for 20, 30 minutes. If I don't feel good when I'm done and I cannot work for the rest of the day, I don't have to work for the rest of the day. There is no set hours. Hopefully you work 15 hours a week. But I have had the last 2 months, I haven't been able to do that. And so this week, the last few days, I've been able to work a little bit more. And hopefully I will work a lot more in the near future. But here's the thing. After I take off insurance, medical insurance and all this other stuff, and of course, I don't take my daughter pays me a monthly fee to live here, like rent, to help with rent and whatnot. When I add that to my husband's paycheck, I have $3,400 to pay all the bills in the house. The budget without any extras for this house is $4,400. That means I have to make $1,000 a month. In a perfect world, I would be able to work enough that I make $1,000 on that project that I'm working on. Keep in mind, I make it depends on the project, but I can make anywhere from $15 to $25 an hour, depending on the project, okay? So let's average out to $20 an hour. So what I need to do, basically, is work, was it 10? I think it was $12 hours a week. 12 hours a week to make the extra money to come up with the full 1,000. It's either 12 or 13, I can't remember right now. But the bottom line is that my goal for myself is 20. And you might be wondering why. Well, because I want to invest in things for the channel, and that has to come out of my own pocket. I don't want to use the money for the family for that. Can I do it? I have to grow into that, but yeah. But here's the thing. I want to be able, because that is not reliable income, because let me put it to you this way. There's different projects. If a project ends and they're looking for another project, it might take a week, it might take 2 weeks until I land on a project that I can work. I need to have an income that produces enough money so that I still make the $1,000 in a month. That's where YouTube comes in. Now, a lot of people criticize content creators for having Patreon, having subscriptions, having other ways of making money. The way I look at it is like this. There are ways that you can make money promoting other people's products like UGC and whatnot. I haven't tried that yet. I'm considering it for other venues, not for YouTube. The only thing that I would probably promote in YouTube would be an Amazon link if the chances were there, because even if it's a couple of dollars here and there, every little bit counts. But here's the thing, and this is the important thing that I need you to understand. The reason why I go so hard for tips, donations, Patreon and whatnot is because I don't want to have advertisers who are going to be gatekeeping what I can and cannot say on my channel. Because I don't have a direct focus of I'm only going to be talking about this. I don't want to depend on people who are going to tell me, well, you can't do it on this video because that video is too much or whatever. I don't want that. That's why you see a lot of people. If you've ever followed Shining Nathan or Auntie Nathan here on YouTube, Shining Nathan on TikTok and Instagram, Shining Nathan is promoting his Patreon heavily right now because they don't want to depend on advertising money, and they don't want advertisers to tell them what they can and cannot say. And I absolutely agree with that. So I'm trying to do it the other way around. Am I going to be successful? I don't know. We're going to have to stay tuned and find out. But the one thing I'm going to tell you, if you can have a part-time job of any sort while you're growing your channel and growing the ways in which you can grow your channel and grow your financial stability from your channel, do it. Because the less you rely on advertising, the better. We have an advertising partner program here on YouTube. The problem is that because of that program, YouTube can decide that they might not advertise on a particular video because you said something that they found offensive. And by the time you actually appeal that decision, if you're lucky enough to get a yes after the appeal, the revenue that particular video will make is gone because it's been running, and the first 24 to 48 hours are the biggest hours for you to get views. That doesn't mean you're never going to get views. That doesn't mean you're not going to make any advertising revenue. But let's be real, the first 24 hours are big for you to make revenue. It takes them usually 2 to 3 days to make a decision. It is what it is. So if you don't want to depend on advertising revenue, like right now, I have been, and I realized that I haven't been very reliable on this channel, but it took me a year and a half to make the threshold so that they would send me a check. I feel like I've given birth to a check, and it's not even for $100, but it is something. But if I live basing all my expenses on that, 18 months is a long time. How many videos can you actually make with $100?